Hello friends, myself Shrirang. We are understanding for loop. So in this video, we will concentrate on how do I do nesting of for loops. Why? Because up to now, we have seen a single for loop. However, there are requirements when we typically will require a nesting of loops. So what do we mean by nesting of loops? Nesting of loop means a loop within a loop. So here I have shown you one loop which we have used up to now. Some similar loops we have used. So this is only a single for loop. So this is a single for loop which we have used. Okay. Now what I am trying to tell you is I am not interested in only one loop, but I want to do nested for loops. So what should I do? Loop within loop. That means here I should have loop within loop. That is what I mean by nesting. Okay, nested for loops, that means loop within loop. So I have basically here loop which is with respect to I. Now I have already declared here a variable j. So I will make use of it. Okay, and for what? I will have one more loop within this loop. Okay, so that for that I am going to write j is equal to 0. Sorry, j is equal to 0 and say j less than, so let me just make it here less than equal to 5 and then j plus plus. Okay, and then I'll just put curly brackets. So now this particular thing, so this loop, whatever we have written here for I, is called as outer loop. This is called as outer loop, and this particular thing is called as inner loop. Okay, so now you have inner loop as well as outer loop. Now I am purposefully doing it with either we can do it with I is equal to 0 or j is equal to 0, like that. So suppose if I just do it with both zeros, then probably I can get rid of this equal to. I don't want to generally keep on doing. So 0 to 4, that means, okay, 0 to 4, that is what we will do. Now for if this is the loop that is given, so essentially it's a nested loop now. Now I want to, let us assume that I want to do summation. Simple example we will take so that we understand the concept. So I will have another variable, let's say sum. Okay, I can initialize it to 0, but right now I am not too keen to initialize it. It's not needed as such, but I have made it 0. Okay. Now what we will do, we can just sum the thing. Okay, so we can simply say sum is equal to I plus j. I want to sum and get the value, and then I want to print. So I want to print what? So I want to print I equal to percentage d, then j equal to percentage d, because I want to print these values. Then some value I want to print. Sum is equal to percentage d, I can keep here, then I can have backslash n, and then I can print all these values. So I, j and sum. Okay, that's it. Okay, now what is happening here? I want to just do the summation and let's see how this works, and then I will basically explain you the working. So now you can see the way in which it is working. Okay, so you will see this I is equal to 0. So let me just reduce this because it is otherwise pretty complicated, or it is overflowing this space. So let me just once again run it. Okay, so I think this is easy for me to explain you. Okay, now here you will see I, it has started with the outer loop. I is equal to 0, and then it entered into this. So it first check obviously whether I is less than 3. Yes, it is less than 3, so it entered into the inner loop, and in the inner loop basically j was initialized to 0, and then obviously it checked whether j is less than 3. Yes, it is less than 3, so then it printed the sum is equal to 0, obviously 0 plus 0 0, and it printed it. Then it is in the inner loop, so it from here it went back, it incremented j, so j became 1. So it will check whether j is less than 3. Yes, it is less than 3. So now you have value of some I to be 0 and j is 1. So it has, that's what it printed. So j is equal to 1, and that's why sum is 1. Then it will once again go back. It will make j is equal to 2. It will check, is j less than 3. Yes, it is less than 3. So it will enter into it. So I is still 0. So 0 plus 2. So sum is 2. So this is the line you are going to see. So then it will, after printing, it will go. So j will become 3. So it will check whether j is less than 3. No, it's not less than 3. So it will come out. So after it comes out, it will go back and it will go to the I. Now earlier I was 0. So it will go and I will get incremented and I will become 1. So is 1 less than 3? Yes, 1 is less than 3. It will enter into the inner loop. The j will once again become 0, and then you will have this sum as I is obviously 1 now, and then j is equal to 0. So 1 plus 0. So that is what you will see. So 1 plus 0, the sum is 1. Then you will have I will continue to be 1. Then once again j will become 0, 1, 2. So you are going to have sum like this, 1, 2, 3. Then you will have basically I will get over with when I is equal, when it has reached, or rather j will get over when j reaches 3. So it will come out, and then I will become 2. That means outer loop will become I is equal to 2. Once again j is 0, 1, 2, 3. You are going to get sum, and then finally I has become 3. So it will come out, and then that's when the program will complete. So that's the way typically you work with the nested loop, and you can very easily see from this code it how the things are working. So you will see when I remains constant, j changes. Then after j has finished, then once again I will change. Then j will once again complete. Then inner loop will complete. Then it will go to the outer loop. Outer loop basically will remain constant, that means 2, and then once again j will increment, and then finally both are over. That means when the outer loop gets over, it will complete. So that's the way typically the nesting thing works. Okay. Now we will improvise on this, and we will understand how the modifications with respect to this can work, because in practical usage we may not want to do it like this, but we would like to basically make use of break as well as there is another statement. So let's say that I want to make use of break statement. So let me just have a file here. So I'll just say new file, and I'll let me create loop 9.c, and here I simply copy this code. Okay. Now here I want to make use of break statement. Okay. I want to break. Now I had told you, like, break is going to break out of that particular loop. That means if I use a break statement here, so it is going to break of this inner loop only. That means the break statement breaks out of the current loop. That is very important. So break statement, let me write it here. So break statement we are going to use. So break will break out of current loop of execution. Current loop, that means here it is in question is inner loop. We have seen the usage of break earlier. There was only one loop, so there was no question of two loops and things like that. However, when you have multiple loops, while here we are having only two loops, but there can be a case where you have three loops or at times four loops. Typically people will not go beyond four because it becomes difficult to manage. So three is good enough. Okay. So typically when you have that situation, then you need to break out of that particular loop. Then how do you do that? So that's where the break statement will work, and it will break out of the current loop. So this is very important. Okay, so let us say that I want to do sum. However, I want to do the sum only when say I and j both are same, or I and j both are not same, either way. Okay, so let's do that. So I will have here now if statement. Okay, and if I say that I not equal to j, I can say that when then only I want to do sum. Okay, and then I want to print the result. Okay, so I don't I when I is not equal to j, so basically I want to do sum. That means how can I otherwise what I can say is when I is equal to j, essentially I don't want sum. So what I can simply do is I can simply say here break. Okay. So let's see this in action now. So let me just put it properly so that indentations are correct. Okay. So now you can see this is outer loop. Then I have used the inner loop, and when I is equal to j, I am breaking. That means I don't want sum when both I and j are same. Okay. So I want sum only when I and j are different. Okay. That is what I have told you. So either way we could have written it. Okay. It doesn't matter. So let me now just run this code. So it has built. Now you can see very easily. For I is equal to, it started with I is equal to 0, so j becomes 0, and now you will never see that j has become 0. Why? The moment I and j are same, it basically came out of inner loop. What happened? So the moment it break statement encountered, it didn't execute these two lines, which was the case in our loop 8 problem. Okay, it printed peacefully. Here now it is not going to print. What it is going to do? Obviously it's not going to do summation, it's not going to print, it will just come out, and here it will come out of the inner loop, it will reach here, then it will go here, I will get incremented. That's why you see I is equal to 1, and then j is equal to 0. Once j is equal to 0, it will start. So it is going to take the sum. So I is equal to j, it's not there, so 1 plus 0, so you see the sum as 1. Then j will increment, j will become 1. So because of that, this condition will meet and it will break. So now you see the sum only when I is equal to 1, j is equal to 0, then I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 0, that sum will be there. That means now here I is incremented, and then here you will see I is equal to 2 and j is equal to 1, then the sum is 3. So why? Because now this is the way typically the things happen. So I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0 didn't happen. Similarly, 1 1 didn't happen. Similarly, 2 2 didn't happen. So that's the beauty when you are using break. Okay. Now we can basically think of other way or other statement to improvise on this or to use this, and that other statement is called as continue. Okay. So we can create a simple file. So let me just create a plain file here, and we will have say loop10.c. Okay, and I want to see, I want to basically explain you the continue statement. So here we will use continue statement. Now why do I require that? Now what is happening when I basically, in this case when I use break, when the condition was met, that means when I was equal to j, it was coming out. However, now I want to continue. That means basically what should happen is I want to continue this particular, that means it should continue. Here what is happening? It never went beyond, say when j was 0, then it came out. It never incremented j to 1 and all that. Okay, that's why you see this result. It never became j is equal to 1 when I was basically 0. Okay, it came out. But if I want to continue, then what should I do? Because I want to continue. Okay, so let's see it in action, and then probably it will become clear. So let me just copy this code, and then we can improvise on this code later in the continue. Okay, so I want to understand this continue statement. We want to explain this, or I want to explain you this statement continue. So let's see this. So here this is that continue statement, and now here I will just say continue. Okay, we want to use continue statement. Okay, so let's see this in action. So instead of this one, I will basically do here continue. Okay, this is the continue is a keyword, so I am using continue statement. Okay, and now I am not too much bothered about say some calculations and all that. We will see that later. Okay, so here let me just copy this statement. Okay, and I will remove this line. I'll remove this line also. Okay, so I am using continue statement. Now let's see how it works, and then we can think of doing sum and all that. Okay, so let's execute this code now. Now the important point I'm making is continue is going to continue. It's not going to break out of the loop. That is very important. Break was to break out of the current loop. Continue just continues the loop. Okay. Now how it continues, that is very interesting, and that is what I wanted to show you. So now you see the funny thing. Okay, sum is still there. Okay, so let me just take out this sum. I don't want sum. Okay, let's run execute. Now you see how it has worked. Okay, I is equal to 0. Yes, I is equal to 0. It started. J, basically when we said I is equal to j, that means j was 0. Then it continued. Okay, then when basically then you have this I is equal to 0, j is equal to 1 in printed. Then you had it continued. It basically printed this when I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 0. You see it continued. Okay, but however it basically didn't print that. So what exactly continue did, that is the interesting thing I want to show you. So continue skip this line. That means if you have a continue statement, so it's going to skip those lines which come after continue. So that is very important. So that is the requirement. Many times you have such requirement. So continue statement, when you use it, skips the code after that continue statement, after the continue statement. Obviously I am talking about with respect to continue statement. So you now can see when you never got I is equal to 0 and j is equal to 0 getting printed. So you will see when I, in the first iteration, when I is equal to 0, j is equal to 0, it continued, so it didn't print anything. Then it continued, it reached here, and then j was incremented. I was still 0. That break, what happened in break? Break and loop, this one is the difference. So break, you basically broke completely out of those, and then I was incremented. It was not the case when you have the continue. So in case of continue, basically what will happen is that j got incremented, and that's why as an output you see here j is equal to I obviously it in j is equal to 0, and things like that you can see. So let me once again run this. Now you can see. Okay, so I is equal to 0. It started with I is equal to 0. Then it didn't print j is equal to 0. That's why. So j was incremented, j became 1. And that's why you see I is equal to 0, j is equal to 1, and j is equal to 2. Then the inner loop completed. Then it came out of the inner loop. Then it went to the outer loop. I was incremented. So j was 0. Yes, it printed. But when j was 1, it never printed. You will see, you will never find I value and j value to be same here. That is the interesting thing I wanted to show you. So I is equal to 1, j is equal to 2. So it completed the loop. Similarly, when I was incremented, you will see j is equal to 0 and j is equal to 1, but you never see j is equal to 2. That is the important thing. Okay, why? Because when the sooner you have this condition, when both are same, you just continue. That means you skip the thing which are after that. Okay. So we could have now done summation here, so we can see the sum how it reflects. So let me just copy these two lines, and instead of just plain printf now, so we can have this one sum. So continue basically skips the code after the statement. So now we can execute this. Okay, so let me just, I reorganized it, and now we can see. So it is very clear now. So I is equal to 0, j is equal to 1, sum is 1. Then I is equal to 0, j is 2, sum is 2. You never got I and j both to be 0, and the sum was never 0. Okay, and here you can see that was the difference. Okay, so then similarly I is equal to 0, then I is equal to 1, then j was 0, and then j was 2. J was never 1, and that's why sum was 3. Sum never was 2. Like that you can understand this working with respect to continue. That means now the first thing we learned in this is you basically have nested loop. When you have two loops, essentially here we chose the two loop. The usage of two loop basically goes to the matrix type of operations, and those videos typically will cater to that. So here we essentially made use of nested loop with ij. Then we understood how do you make use of break statement and how it breaks the current loop. That is what we understood as part of this code. And then instead of break, if I use continue, then how the continue works, and then it essentially skips the statement. Break breaks that particular inner loop. Continue doesn't break, but it skips the whatever the code is there, and then it just continues that way. That is the way it works. So these are the important aspects, the way in which we make use of nested loops. I hope you like this video. Thank you.